Hello, welcome to Study Circle. Today we are going to read Class 9th Standard Civics, Chapter 5 Democratic Rights. This video is made for revision purpose only. This is the summary of whole chapter. So let's start. Democratic Rights. In the previous two chapters, we have looked at two major elements of a democratic government. We saw that how a democratic government has to be periodically elected by people in free and fair manner, and we also learned that democracy must be based on institutions that follow certain rules and procedures. These elements are necessary but not sufficient for democracy. Elections and institutions need to be combined with a third element, enjoyment of rights. To make a government democratic, even the most properly elected rulers working through the established institutional process must learn not to cross some limits. Citizens' democratic rights set those limits in a democracy. Rights in a democracy. Rights are claim of a person over other fellow beings, over the society and over the government. A right is possible when a person makes a claim that is equally possible for others. A person cannot have a right that harms or hurts others. These claims should be reasonable, thus a rights come from an obligation to respect other rights. Rights acquire meaning only in society. Every society makes certain rules to regulate our conduct. What is recognized by the society as rightful becomes the basis of rights. When the socially recognized claims are written on into law, they acquire real force. Otherwise, they remain merely as natural or moral rights. Rights are reasonable claims of persons recognized by society and sanctioned by law. Need of rights in a democracy. Necessary for a very sustenance of a democracy, protection of minorities from the oppression of majority, protection from other citizens. Things may go wrong when some citizens may wish to take away the rights of others. Protection from government. Sometimes elected governments may not protect or may even attack the rights of their own citizens. Some rights need to be placed higher than the government so that the government cannot violate them. Rights in the Indian Constitution. In India, the basic rights of citizens are written down in the Constitution. Some rights which are fundamental to our life are given a special status. They are called fundamental rights. Preamble to our Constitution talks about securing for all its citizens equally liberty and justice. Fundamental rights put this promise into effect. Our Constitution provides for 6 fundamental rights. These are right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, right to cultural and educational rights, right to constitutional remedies. Right to equality, rule of law. The Constitution says that government shall not deny to any person in India equality before the law or the equal protection of the laws. It means that the laws apply in the same manner to all regardless of a person's status. Rule of law means that no person is above the law. There cannot be any distinction between a political leader, government official, and an ordinary citizen. No person can legally claim any special treatment or privilege just because he or she happens to be an important person. Implications of the right to equality. The government shall not discriminate against any citizen on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. Every citizen shall have access to public places like shops, restaurants, hotels, and cinema halls. Similarly, there shall be no restriction with regard to the use of wells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads, playgrounds, and places of public resort maintained by government or dedicated to the use of general public. Same principle applies to public jobs. All citizens have equality of opportunity in matters relating to employment or appointment to any position in the government. No citizen shall be discriminated against or made ineligible for employment on the grounds mentioned above. Extension of principle of non-discrimination to social life. The Constitution mentions one extreme form of social discrimination, the practice of untouchability, and clearly directs the government to put an end to it. The practice of untouchability has forbidden in any form. Untouchability. It refers to any belief or social practice which looks down upon people on account of their birth with certain caste level. Constitution made untouchability a punishable offense. Reservations are not against right to equality. Equality means giving everyone an equal opportunity to achieve their capability. Sometimes it is necessary to give a special treatment to someone in order to ensure equal opportunity. The Constitution says that reservations of this kind are not a violation of the right to equality. Right to freedom. Freedom means absence of constraints. In practical life, it means absence of interference in our affairs by others, be it other individual or the government. Scope of right to freedom. Every citizen has a right to all these freedoms. One cannot exercise his freedom in such a manner that violates other right to freedom or cause public nuisance or disorder. Freedom is not unlimited license to do anything. Accordingly, the government can impose certain reasonable restriction on our freedom in the larger interest of the society. Constitution grants all citizens the right to freedom of speech and expression, essential features of any democracy. Our ideas and personality develop only when we are able to freely communicate with others. Accepting disagreements. One may disagree with the policy of government or activities of an association. The person is free to criticize the government or the activities of the association. One may publicize his views through a pamphlet, magazine, or newspaper, through paintings, poetry, or songs. Limit. This freedom cannot be used to instigate violence against others or incite people to rebel against government. It cannot be used to defame others by saying false and mean things that cause damage to a person's reputation. Assembly in a peaceful manner. Citizens have a freedom to hold meetings, processions, rallies, and demonstrations on any issues. Limit. Such meetings have to be peaceful and should not lead to public disorder or breach of peace in society. Those who participate in these activities and meetings should not carry weapons with them. Form association and unions. Citizens also can form association. For example, worker in factory can form a workers union to promote their interest. Move freely throughout the country, reside in any part of the country, freedom to reside and settle in any part of the territory of India, practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade or business. No one can force a person to do or not to do a certain job. Women cannot be told that some kinds of occupation are not for them. People from deprived caste cannot be kept to their traditional occupation. No person can be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. No person can be killed unless the court has ordered a death sentence. A government or police officer cannot arrest or detain any citizen unless he has proper legal justification. Even when they do, they have to follow some procedures. A person who is arrested and detained in custody will have to be informed for the reason for such arrest and detention. A person who is arrested and detained shall be produced before the nearest magistrate within a period of 24 hours of arrest. Such a person has the right to consult a lawyer or engage a lawyer for his defense. Right against exploitation. The Constitution mentions three specific evils and declares these illegal. Prohibits traffic in human beings. Traffic here means selling and buying of human beings, usually women for immoral purposes. Prohibits forced labor or beggar in any form. Beggar is a practice where the worker is forced to render service to the master free of charge or at a nominal remuneration. When this practice takes place on a lifelong basis, it is called the practice of bonded labor. Prohibits child labor. No one can employ a child below the age of 14 to work in any factory or mine or any other hazardous work such as railways and ports. Right to freedom of religion. Right to freedom includes right to freedom of religion also. India is a secular state. It does not establish any one religion as official religion. Indian secularism practices an attitude of principle and equal distances from all religions. The state has to be neutral and impartial in dealing with all religions. Every person has a right to profess, practice, and propagate any religion. Every religious group or sect is free to manage its religious affairs. A person is free to change religion on his or her own will, but a person cannot compel another person to convert into his religion by means of force, fraud, inducement, or allurement, of course. Freedom of practice of religion does not mean that person can do whatever he wants in the name of religion. For example, one cannot sacrifice animals or human beings as offering to supernatural forces or gods. India does not confer any privilege or favor on any particular religion. It does not punish or discriminate against people on the basis of religion they follow. So the government cannot compel any person to pay any taxes for the promotion or maintenance of any particular religion or religious institution. There shall be no religious instruction on the government educational institution. The educational institution managed by private bodies, no person shall be compelled to take part in any religious instruction or to attend any religious worship. Cultural and educational rights. Democracy gives power to the majority, so language, culture, and religion of minority needs a special protection. Otherwise, they may get neglected or undermined under the impact of language, religion, and culture of majority. Constitution specifies the cultural and educational rights of the minorities. Any section of citizen with a distinct language or culture have a right to conserve it. Admission to any educational institution maintained by government or receiving government aid cannot be denied to any citizen on ground of religion or language. All minorities have the right to establish and administer educational institution of their choice. Meaning of minority. Here, minority does not mean only religious minority at the national level. In some places, people speaking a particular language are in majority and people speaking a different languages are in a minority. For example, Telugu speaking people form a majority in Andhra Pradesh, but they are minority in the neighboring state of Karnataka. Right to constitutional remedies. Constitutional a constitution has a right to seek the enforcement of other rights. This is called the right to constitutional remedies. This itself is a fundamental right. This right makes other rights effective. When any rights are violated, a person can seek remedy through courts. If it is a fundamental right, he or she can directly approach the Supreme Court or the High Court of State. That's why Dr. Ambedkar called the right to constitutional remedies the heart and soul of our country constitution. Fundamental rights are guaranteed against the action of the legislature, the executive, any other authorities instituted by the government. There can be no law or action that violates the fundamental rights. If any act of the legislature or the executive takes away or limits any of the fundamental rights, then it will be invalid. Courts also enforce the fundamental rights against private individuals and bodies. The Supreme Court and High Court have the power to issue direction, orders, or writs for the enforcement of the fundamental rights. They can also award compensation to the victims and punishment to the violators. Expanding scope of rights over the years. Sometimes expansion leads to expansion in the legal rights that the citizens can enjoy. From time to time, the courts gave judgment to expand the scope of rights. While fundamental rights are the source of all rights, our constitution and law offers a wide range of rights. Certain rights like right to freedom of press, right to information, right to education are derived from fundamental rights. For example, now school education has become a right for Indian citizens. The governments are responsible for providing free and compulsory education to all children up to age of 14 years. Constitution provides many more rights which may not be fundamental rights. For example, the right to property is not a fundamental right but is a constitutional right. Right to vote in election is an important constitutional right. Some international conven- some international covenants have also contributed to the expansion of rights. Now, the interesting points of this chapter is that prison in Guantanamo Bay. About 600 people were secretly picked up by the US forces from all over the world and put in a prison in Guantanamo Bay, an area near Cuba controlled by American Navy. The US government said that they were enemies of the US and linked to the attack on New York on 11 September 2001. Amnesty International, an international organization of volunteers who campaign for human rights. REIT, a formal document containing an order of the court to the government issued only by High Court or the Supreme Court. Human rights. These are universal moral claims that may or may not have been recognized by the law. National Human Rights Commission (NHRC). It is an independent commission set up by law in 1993. Like judiciary, the commission is independent and the government. The commission is appointed by the president and includes retired judges, officers, and eminent citizens. No burden of deciding court cases. It focuses on helping the victims secure their human rights. These include all the rights granted to the citizens by the Constitution. They also include the rights mentioned in the UN sponsored international treaties that India has signed. No power to punish the guilty. That is the responsibility of the courts. The NHRC is there to make independent and credible inquiry into any case of violation of human rights. It also inquires into any case of abatement of such violation or negligence in controlling it by any government officers and take other general steps to promote human rights in the country. The Commission presents its findings and recommendations to the government or intervene in the court on behalf of the victims. Like any court, it can summon witness, question any government official, demand any official paper, visit any prison for inspection, or send its own team for on the spot inquiry. Any citizen of India can write a letter to their address to complain against the violation of human rights. There is no fee or any formal procedure to approach the NHRC. Like NHRC, there are State Human Rights Commission (SHRC) in 26 states of the country as on 10 December 2018. International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. This has not yet become an international treaty. These include right to work, opportunity to everyone to earn livelihood by working, right to safe and healthy working conditions, that is, fair wages that can provide decent standard of living for the workers and their families. Right to adequate standard of living include adequate food, clothing and housing. Right to social security and insurance. Right to health, medical care during illness, special care for women during childbirth and prevention of epidemics. So this is the summary of this chapter. If you like this video, then please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.